You're listening to Like and Follow podcast, presented by Milk Bar Digital.
Welcome to Like and Follow. This is Milk Bar Digital's social media podcast, where we're going to be talking today about all things hospitality. Obviously, it's a little bit of a different episode, as you can see, or you might, I don't know how good our Zoom backgrounds are, but you can probably tell that Ant and I are not sitting in the same room. or maybe we are.
Who knows?
But today I'm joined by Ant, who works in our team here at Milk Bar, and he works across quite a few different sort of brands, I suppose, but some of those over the years have included some hospitality businesses, food businesses, restaurants, cafes. At the moment, your favourite, a distillery.
Yes. Gin, where do I begin?
And so today, I guess we're going to be talking a little bit about how hospitality businesses can effectively use social media in their marketing strategy. And we'll talk a little bit about, I guess, it's kind of hard to ignore the elephant in the room, which is, I guess, COVID and the current climate for hospo businesses, which is probably the least ideal that it's ever been. But we'll also talk about, I guess, what's coming up next. So what businesses can do once they're rebuilding their businesses. So I guess, and when we have a new client who starts with us, and they say to us, where do we begin with social? Like, this is something we know we should be doing, but we either have been ignoring it completely, or we've been potentially giving it to one of our wait staff to do. But now we know it's important that we now somehow get like some professionals on board. What do you think the first things are that a hospo business needs to do?
I think having a very clear idea of what they want to achieve from having social. So whether it's they feel that they could be communicating with their customers better. So in terms of like, I don't know, whether that be general questions, like communicating what's going on within the business, whether they want to use it to attract, I guess, more bookings or to get more people in the door, like if that's their main goal, or whether it's to reach new customers and attract that new business as well. And maybe if they have a certain area that maybe they're not reaching, where they want to attract new customers that way, I guess kind of just, having that kind of real clear kind of goal on what they want to achieve. And then that's a really good place to start. I think there's so many different ways you can use social for your business, that having that very kind of clear objective at the start is like a real good place to be.
Yeah, because I guess everyone always comes to us and says, oh, we just want more customers. But that's really broad. And I mean, that's one thing for sure we can keep as the top line goal, and we always probably will. But is it a particular time of day? Like, is it your lunch trade perhaps that's not performing very well? Is it the takeaway service that you really want to improve? There's actually a lot of smaller factors, I think, that that businesses can consider. And even sometimes, you've got brands who sort of lead the way, I suppose, or are the leaders in social for hospo brands. Like, I think of the Lucas Group probably, with like Chin Chin and Kong and restaurants like that, where they're not struggling to get people in the door.
No, yeah, you're right.
But their social is still a really important part of their marketing. And I guess for them, it's about their brand positioning and making sure that that they continue to be seen as such a, exclusive and exciting destination. So I definitely think you're right in terms about really having clear objectives. And I think that's also about making them measurable. So, for example, if a restaurant doesn't take online bookings yet, it's always going to be really hard for us to drive people from social media somewhere.
Yeah, I think sometimes it is like, that's probably one of the harder things when they don't have a measurable like thing. So whether we're driving people to their place of business, but is there a way we can measure that? So like having online bookings, whether you're running promotions for people to show stuff when they go into store and things like that, having a kind of measurable aspect to it is a real good way of like them seeing the value of it, I think. So like setting that up and having that as, it may be something that they've wanted to do and maybe don't know how to do. So that's kind of where we can come in and help with that, I guess. And I guess then if they do have that objective in mind, also making sure that at site level they have that set up to be able to kind of receive those bookings and to manage that appropriately. So having that kind of communication between the social presence and actually the store presence as well, I think is really important.
That sort of leads to it's a nice segue into talking about the physical space. So I think often there can be a little bit of a disconnect potentially between digital and the in-store experience. So what would your recommendations be for a restaurant who perhaps doesn't have any sort of call to action in the restaurant for social?
I feel like, yeah, like you said, it kind of needs to be a two-way thing. So if we're doing all this like promotion online and getting people to go into the cafe, to make sure that the whole team in the cafe are also aware of what's going on. So you don't have people that, you know, examples of when we're running promotions and stuff for them, but then they get into the cafe and the staff have no idea. So it's almost that, you know, we're doing like a great job of getting people in, but when they get there and then there's that disconnect and it then becomes confusing for the customer. And I think that can be, you know, that could be where it's almost like they're a waste of time if there's not that connection, I think. So having a real kind of clear communication between actually what we're doing and also making sure the whole team are aware as well. And I can, like, having worked in hospitality in the past, I understand that, you know, you may have casuals and stuff like that. So making sure they have like maybe a notice board or like a weekly kind of newsletter to their team to make sure that they're kind of aware what we're doing this week on social, so that like when they go into the cafe that, you know, everyone's on the same page. And I feel like when that does happen, like you can achieve some pretty amazing things as well.
Yeah.
I think also like making sure that the cafe itself are encouraging people to, so, you know, yeah, we're sending traffic to them, but also they're sending traffic to social as well. So I'll make sure you tag us, and, you know, like maybe taking the odd photo. You know, if there's like a example in the past where there was a mom and like baby kind of group that was meeting, so kind of asking, you know, do you mind if we share this photo on social or tag us on social, just to kind of let, you know, the community that has built around your cafe also sharing that community online as well. So having that two-way process is, you know, really good.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I feel like it can just be the little things too. It can be having like a little sign at the pause, like, follow us, here are our handles, and giving people a reason to follow you too. Like maybe if you check in on Facebook, you can get like some sort of like discount or percentage off your bill, or your next coffee's free. And even just having your social icons on the menu. I've seen also a lot of restaurants lately have been doing things like saying, you know, want to see a photo of this dish, then make sure you head over to our Instagram, like having that written on the menu, just creating that, I guess, two-way street, as you said. Because at the end of the day, there's no better customer, or there's no more potential, you know, follower for your Instagram than the customers who are already in your store. So if you're seeing,
definitely, they're like, yeah, like they're your ambassadors, aren't they? So, you know, you want them to kind of shout about you. And like I said, I feel like people, it's quite sad that people very rarely run onto social to say good things. So why not? Like, I feel like you should encourage that and embrace it. And, you know, because people obviously, they're in your establishment, so they like what you do, they like what you're selling. So, you know, give them the ability to shout about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really important. And so I guess another question we get quite frequently at Milk Bar would be around, why isn't my Instagram growing faster? It's our favorite one, Ant.
No, it's, you know, to have like nice photos and like a really beautiful aesthetic, having all that, yeah, that's great. But if you don't have anything that is kind of drawing people back, you got to give them a reason to kind of want to engage with your social and stuff. I feel like when customers maybe initially go to your establishment, it's great to use that, you know, oh, let's see what the dishes look like, what I'm going to choose off the menu. But then you've also got to give them a reason to then come back after, whether it be like, you know, weekly specials, or whether you're doing like, you've got a brand new dish that's like extra, and, you know, all that theatre and stuff, kind of giving them that reason to come back and engage with you. Because otherwise, like, if you think, you've also got to think about, I guess, why do you follow accounts? What are the accounts that you go to and follow and are always engaging with? Like, it's not because, you know, they just have like, sometimes it's because you like the brand, but usually because their content is engaging and, like, oh, I want to check in and see what they've posted this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it kind of comes back to the initial strategy that you need to build out for your social media, and that it shouldn't just be around, here's a photo of a dish, here's a photo of a dish, here's a photo of a dish.
Yeah.
And I think that whilst obviously at the end of the day, you're a restaurant or a cafe, there's only going to be so many things you can really post about. And a lot of that will be photos of dishes. It's about making them look new and exciting, because especially if you have a limited menu, say there's only, if you're pretty boutique and you only have, say, 12 dishes on your menu in totality, and maybe it doesn't change very frequently, then it is about being clever with the content that you're posting and also thinking outside the box. So I guess that's where we would sort of look at the business and go, well, what else is exciting about this? What's your point of difference? What makes you guys special? Why should someone come in and spend $25 on their lunch with you? So that might be, telling the story of the business owners. Maybe it might be some behind the scenes video content showing the making of one of their dishes. Maybe it might be talking about where the produce is sourced from. So really giving that backstory on the restaurant and their ethos. Maybe it's going out and talking to the farmers who produced the amazing ingredients that they're working with. I think these days consumers need more. I think we've moved past that phase of just wanting to look at pretty things on Instagram. And I think it's more and more important that we're connecting with things emotionally.
Yeah, I think quite often we find that these cafes, like, there's a reason why people adore them so much and go back. And it may be that there's, you've got Noreen that's been there for like 25 years and people love her. Like, why not shout about that? Why not share those like amazing stories with people? Because that's the kind of thing that people want to know. Like, and you'll get people that will attract. And you also get someone to be like, do you know what? I've gone to that cafe like every week for my coffee, and I've always seen her. And now, like, I've always wanted to know, like, what is her story? But I've been too scared to ask. So yeah, things like that are like people love to see and love to hear about. And I think sometimes, like, either the cafes don't have the time or aren't able to share those stories, or they just kind of haven't thought about that. And I think that's kind of like where we come in, is kind of being able to like pinpoint those like parts of the business where we can like shout about and make them sing.
Absolutely. I think sort of sometimes you need someone who is a stranger to the business. You need that fresh set of eyes who can actually step back and look at the business and go, all right, you know what? I think these are the hooks here. This is what's people are gonna really respond to on social. And I feel like it's a conversation that obviously we're having in social media as a whole, but just this real sense of community and of emotion and of story and of authenticity. And I hate how frequently the word authenticity is used in social media conversation, but it's true. And I think that from our experience, what we're seeing with the businesses we work with, don't underestimate your audience and the fact that they actually are willing to watch a video that is longer or that has someone talking to camera and that tells a proper story. People are looking for that. And I think that especially now at the moment too.
Yeah, definitely.
So I guess that sort of talks a little bit about content pillars and how hospo brands should be, thinking outside the box and trying to make them more exciting. And I think another reason that people would want to follow a brand on whether it's Facebook or Instagram, I think you need to think about, as you just said before, and like, why do you follow businesses on social media? So are there any sort of incentives that you've seen brands do that sort of, I guess, give you not just the emotional reason to follow, but also potentially just like a fun reason to follow? Or
I feel like definitely like cafes shouting about offers they have, whether it be like I know that our favorite coffee shop, like you have like a rewards card and your 10th kind of coffee is free. So I guess kind of like they're more like traditional kind of offers that restaurants and cafes and places like that offer. So why not transfer that over to social? So whether like tag us in a photo and get like 5% off your next meal, things like that, like offers that are going to bring them back. And also it's not just bringing them back that one time for that offer. They're likely then to come back, over and over again, be pretty loyal. So yeah, giving people, like I said, that little bit of extra incentive to kind of, I guess, engage and also come into your like cafe and establishment. So,
and it can also be, doesn't necessarily need to be about money either. We've found in the past things that have worked really well have been even just doing things like releasing a really exciting dish to your social media audience first. So it could be people want to follow you on Instagram because they know that they're going to have first dibs or first access or first look at something really cool and new. Also, perhaps you run a monthly giveaway or something like that where you're, you know, if people tag you in their content, then they know that, you know, once a month you're gonna pick a winner and that they get maybe brunch for two or dinner for two or even like a complimentary wine or something like that.
like rewarding your regular customers that way as well, I think it's a really good thing. Like, you know, showing that you appreciate their support and things like that. And it's kind of little kind of a few of the brands that like companies that I work with, they love doing that kind of stuff. Maybe they just haven't had the time in the past, but like they love to be able to kind of reward people that, you know, are loyal to them and do come in week after week, you know, giving back. I think it's a really good, it's a really nice thing they can do. And I generally feel that they like to do that as well. So it's not just about kind of attracting those new customers with the offer, it's also like, you know, rewarding those that are loyal to you as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
I feel like a lot of businesses are constantly concentrating on the new, aren't they? They're thinking about that new customer acquisition and they sort of forget a little bit about the loyalty side of things.
Yeah. So I do feel like with everything that's going on now, people have like seen the value in all their regular and loyal customers that are supporting them, especially through these hard times. I feel like it's been really nice to see. And I think it's probably like speaking to some of the owners of the businesses that we work with, they've been really touched, and you know, they weren't even aware that they had this like huge loyal customer base, which are literally saving their business right now. So yeah, I think I think we will see that kind of, hopefully when we move past all this, that, you know, there will be that kind of incentive to kind of reward their loyal customers and like things like that. And like regulars, I think sometimes like you've seen that recently that a lot of businesses are shouting out and thanking their customers. Like, why not do that on a regular basis? You know, like these are obviously customers that have been supporting you for years, and you know, it's taken what's happened for people to kind of acknowledge that. And I feel like, why not? I feel it's just people, we need to do that more, like thank people that are always supporting us. Like,
agreed. And actually, while we're talking about the current climate, maybe do you have any examples of businesses in the hospo space who you think have, I guess, successfully pivoted to sort of meet the demand or to meet the changes that have had to happen?
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I've been so impressed with how fast like people reacted to this, and just people that have never ever thought of operating outside of their like four walls have now all of a sudden had no choice but to do it to survive. So, you know, you've seen all these amazing restaurants and cafes that maybe you've always wanted to go to but never had the time and stuff. You've now been able to order to your own home, and I think it's been fantastic. I've personally enjoyed taking advantage of it and trying a few new places and stuff. And I feel like, yeah, I've seen a few that have kind of really done very well at pivoting from, you know, that kind of dining experience and moving towards takeaway and delivery. And I feel like begs the question as to why like we have like businesses haven't done more of that in the past. And it'd be interesting to see whether they carry on doing it in the future. Because and also I guess it'd be interesting to see whether people will also still want it once we can go out into the real world. But I do believe that I feel like there's definitely a demand for it.
Yeah, I agree. I think we were just chatting before a little bit about how much you and I have both personally been loving the Atlas dining at home meal kits. They've been amazing.
Yeah, fantastic. And I feel like you've had, did you see one of the really, well-known restaurants have been having like pop-ups in different suburbs to kind of, because I feel like there's been a lot of places that have, obviously due to restrictions, like, you know, they're still the same businesses, still have the same workforce, like not being able to reach different areas of Melbourne. So they've been really clever to then like partnership with other businesses and use their space as a pop-up to be able to access those various areas around Melbourne. I feel like that's a really clever thing. I think it was Mr. Miyagi has done that. And that's really clever because obviously you've got this space that maybe they're not using it of an evening. So supporting this, I assume they'd be giving them like the percentage of the sales. So supporting that establishment, but also reaching the rest of Melbourne. I feel it's been like, I've just been really blown away with how creative people have been to kind of keep their businesses going.
Yeah, I think that's such a good example. And it also probably talks to the importance of having a good network in the industry that you work in too. And the other one I think that I've been impressed by is even one of your clients, Ant, and how they've gone from running their gin masterclasses in their space to being able to actually do at-home gin masterclasses and through Zoom. And also the fact that they've just, completely changed what they're producing and that they're now manufacturing hand sanitizer.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like the fact that, like, if you'd asked me like a couple of months ago whether they would be producing, like moving away from what they produce on a day-to-day to producing hand sanitizer, and that alone is pretty much saving their business. And I know it's very, like, you've seen it happen to many, like a lot of distilleries, even restaurants have been doing it as well. Like trying to find a way to, replace that lost income. And I feel like it's definitely saved a lot of businesses, and it's just, it's pretty amazing. And it's like thinking outside the box, and people have embraced it and supported them, which is like been really nice to see.
And how have they communicated these messages? Through social media.
I feel like I've seen so much more. I definitely feel people have been, like, business have been using social media more, because I've been fed so many ads of like things that are happening and like places I didn't even know, or maybe I've heard about, and then I'm like, wow, they're doing like home delivery kits, things like that. And you just kind of, I think we're all worrying that we weren't going to have anything to do, being locked away. And then also like we've been fed all this stuff, like, great, I want to take up pottery and things like that. Or like, I didn't know I want to, but now I do. And just I think like taking something that they've done originally, within those four walls, and making them applicable to the home has been really good and really exciting to see.
I think that's sort of also where our expertise, or anyone who sort of knows what they're doing in ads manager, what their strength is as well. So for example, I think one of the things that's blown our minds has been the phenomenal amount of e-commerce sales that we're seeing at the moment for our clients. Obviously, I mean, for someone who might be a traditional retailer and they've had to close their physical stores, obviously you're going to see a spike in online. But for some of our hospo brands too, who've had to suddenly pivot and set up an e-commerce store, it's been the fact that we've been steadily growing a really strategic sales funnel for them for the last 6 months, that the moment they've had to switch on to this new model or release these new products through their e-commerce store, they've had these really awesome audiences for us to sort of utilize and generate sales really quickly. I think that for anyone who hasn't really maybe had experience with sales funnels before, they can take quite a bit of time to build up. And you're sort of chipping away at it. It's a long-term game. Effective social media or sustainable social media is really definitely a long-term strategy. And so when we work with a brand new client, it's going to take us a fair few months to sort of build those cold audiences, warm them up through exciting content, and then get them into the position where we can, really target them for sales or those hot conversions. And I think that what's paid off is brands that we've worked with who've suddenly switched on e-commerce maybe, and they've never had it before. We've had this amazing database of people to target straight away who are ready to buy. And I think that, again, that sort of comes back to that conversation about also community and loyalty.
Yeah, I've been blown away. And like I said, it's been really nice to see, because obviously we were all pretty worried when things change and stuff. And I feel like they've seen also, like I've seen the rewards of all that hard work and all that setting up that we've done. And I've just been like blown away with the sales that we've had, and I'm just so happy, because I was very worried, and I'm pretty sure they were just as worried with it being their business, and just to see that kind of all that hard work kind of pay off, and the amazing results that we're seeing now. And like you said, it's good that all that initial setup and all that, all that hard work that we did at the start is really starting to pay off. And as you said, they were like, pretty much, you've got an engaged audience, you've got people that are like already sold on the brand, and now we've like given them that option to experience that at home and they've just jumped for it, and it's been really great to see.
I guess once we come out of this climate, because, people are getting itchy feet, and I feel like the rules are beginning to relax, and hopefully in the next, however many months, we can return to some sort of sense of normality. I guess going back to hospo brands, what would you say your top tips are for hospitality when they're using their social media channels?
I feel like the communication aspect of social media is so great. So it's been a great platform with everything that's been going on to be able to daily communicate all the changes. And I feel like that's just going to be just as important as we go back to the way things were. So, being able to communicate like it was when we were first changing. Sometimes the changes are day to day. So, a lot of places were open the one day, close the next. So being able to communicate that. And I feel like that's going to be just as important when we go back to some kind of normality, and being able to communicate that to their customers and to make sure that we keep them engaged and up to date through every step of the process. So I also feel like, you may have reached all these brand new potential or these brand new customers. So making sure that you're keeping contact with them and communicating that, we just have the same amazing experience as you had at home, like come and see us in the flesh and things like that. So yeah, I do feel like that communication and that keeping them engaged is going to be really important over the next couple of months.
It probably goes back to how we would start with a new client as well. I think don't forget things like Instagram stories and the great amount of reach you can get from that. Don't forget about using your highlights effectively. So using your Instagram highlights to communicate things like new menus or changes in trading hours, or maybe you might even have an Instagram highlight which is purely dedicated to talking through the hygiene and cleaning processes that you're putting in place, things that can rebuild that trust that you need to have with your audience. And I think also just not underestimating the, I guess, importance of things like video content, and that things don't necessarily need to be super, super polished and shiny and professional looking all the time, especially at the moment. And I think that just being clever with your content strategy.
It's been really nice to see a lot of people kind of just set up a camera in their own home and keep those connections with their customers and their fans and things like that. Just you've got people that maybe have never filmed themselves before, set up a camera in their own home and just to stay in touch and just to keep those customers and people engaged. And that's been really lovely to see. So hopefully it has kind of shed that light that it doesn't have to be studio perfect, it doesn't have to be professionally edited. Just having that kind of interaction and keeping your customers engaged is just it could be as simple as a little 1 minute message or something like that. Is and kind of keeping that up, I think.
Well, thank you so much for your time this morning, Ant, and all of your great insights.
Thanks for the chat.
And if anyone out there is listening who needs some help, we actually have released some really exciting white papers on the Milk Bar Digital website. So we've got one specifically for hospitality businesses, which you can download for free. You don't even need to sign up. We're literally, there's nothing going on except us giving you our insights and our thoughts on the current situation. And a lot of this stuff will apply to later as well. So it's kind of just best practice do's and don'ts really for hospo businesses now or later. So please hop on to milkbardigital.com.au to access that, and stay tuned for our next episode of Like and Follow.